I'm not getting no answer.
Please continue. The next word is white.
But you think you should look in on him, please?
Not once we've started the
But
experiment.
what if something's happened to the man, had an attack or something there?
The experiment requires that we continue. Go on, please.
Don't the man...
Well, the learner, the victim, could have been dying in there.
But he might be dead in there.
What happened to him anyway?
He was part of an act and did not, in fact, receive the shocks.
And those screams of agony?
The screams of agony were tape recorded and coordinated to specific shocks on the shock levels on the generator.
Let me out of here, let me out.
God bless you, boy. You have me shaking in here.
Nice to see you.
Same
Feel
here.
better now?
I sure as heck do.
Are you able to make a profile of the kind of person who will tend to blindly obey or obey authority without ever questioning it?
I wish I could. We still really don't know the factors that allow one person to resist authority while another yields to him. I would say, however, that all people, if they're normal, will comply with authority in some degree. The respect for authority is a part of normal behavior. But I wouldn't say it's blind obedience. They do not see themselves as blindly obeying. They see themselves as furthering some worthy cause, the advancement of science in this case.
Well, that's another question. How can you compare? I mean, isn't there a fundamental difference between a man taking part in what he believes to be a very worthy experiment, advancing knowledge and teaching methods and everything else, with the mindless brutality of a Nazi concentration camp guard?
In almost every case of obedience, whether it is obedience in the laboratory in the interest of science, obedience in the military in the interest of patriotism, obedience in the Inquisition in the interest of the church, there's almost some ideology that justifies for the person who obeys the actions that he performs. He almost always sees his action as serving some noble end, so that the kind of obedience one sees here is indeed quite typical.
But our whole civilization is based on the obedience to authority. That's what law and order is.
That's true. On the one hand, you must have some kind of structure of authority for society to function. You cannot have civilized life without authority. On the other hand, there are cases when authority itself goes awry, when authority itself is malevolent.
When you say that, are you suggesting that that it could happen here?
I would say, on the basis of having observed 1,000 people in the experiment and having my own intuition shaped and informed by these experiments, that if a system of death camps were set up in the United States of the sort we had seen in Nazi Germany, one would be able to find sufficient personnel for those camps in any medium-sized American town.
If you doubt Dr. Milgram's conclusion, well, we have a statistic. Milgram polled 40 leading psychiatrists, asking them how many of the 1,000 people who took part in the experiment we've just seen would go all the way to the end of the board. They said perhaps 1 out of 1,000, a pathological fringe. The disturbing fact is 600 of the 1,000 administered full shock.
Young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, half of this cabinet, are actually young noble leaders of the world economic forum. We penetrate the cabinets.
The change is not just happening. The change can be shaped by us. We have to prepare for a more angry world. How to prepare? Take the necessary action to create a fairer world. I see the need for a great reset.
So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
There is only one way this pandemic is going to go. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
The next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner, and it is the climate crisis.
If we treat water seriously, we need urgent action. And the really interesting thing about water is that it's everywhere. which also means that we need to take it extremely seriously across all the Sustainable Development Goals. Name one SDG where water is not relevant. One of our commissioners, Yvonne Sawyer, who is the mayor of Freetown, says that, for example, many women get raped when they go fetch water. So SDG 5 on gender parity is related to water. Of course, SDG 6 on WASH. Of course, SDG 13 and 14, climate change and life below our oceans, but actually all of them. And it's also across all our sectors. Again, name one sector that's not reliant on water. So it's really an economy-wide problem, and we shouldn't treat it as a sector. Otherwise, it gets siloed into kind of boring, subsidies and guarantees and different types of policies that see it just as one thing as opposed to a problem that needs massive innovation across government and across all sectors. And in fact, I have all this paper here, it's hard to hold at the microphone, but our first report, which was our March preliminary report last March, actually ended with this massive opportunity that water as a problem provides to the private sector and to the public sector around storage systems, water delivery systems, agriculture use, recycling, and of course energy use. But that doesn't happen on its own without actually changing how we do capitalism, right? This is not about, as much as I love philanthropies, we need actually to do business differently. We need corporate governance to change. We need governments to change. Instead of fixing market failures, what does it actually mean to shape an economy to deliver for people and planets?
To make what's called artificial meat. And so you have people like Impossible or Beyond Meat, both of which I invested in.
You eat it as well, and you like it?
Absolutely. You can go to Burger King and buy the Impossible Burger.
All right. Is it healthier for you or just healthier for the atmosphere?
It's slightly healthier for you in terms of less cholesterol. It's, of course, dramatic reduction in methane emissions, animal cruelty, manure management, and the pressure that meat consumption puts on land use. You know, the main reason why we need to increase agricultural output over the rest of this century is not the population increase. It's that as countries get richer, they eat more meat, and meat is a very inefficient way of creating calories. And so it's super helpful.
Secretary Lutnick, why did you lie to the New York Post about your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, I did hear that. Please don't repeat your gracious offer to speak behind closed doors, not under oath, without the ability of this committee to question you. The American people wants to know, why did you lie about your relationship with Epstein?
The House Oversight Committee and I have agreed
we will spend the time reclaiming my time. I do not accept that answer. We've heard that one. We are our own committee. We have our own reason to test your credibility and veracity. Please answer the question. Why did you lie to the Post?
I have voluntarily agreed to spend the time and talk about it.
I reclaim the time. Let the record reflect you're dodging the question. The cover-up continues. You know what? In your conversations with the President, is the President concerned about your continued relationship that you had with Mr. Epstein as recently as 2018?
I am not going to discuss conversations I have with the President. That is not something I'm going to do.
If you remember in that interview, you said you would never be in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. President Trump has just fired 3 cabinet secretaries, 3 women, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, Lori Chavez DeRemer. If President Trump has even a shred of concern about accountability for Jeffrey Epstein's enablers, he would fire you too. Beyond ADFIN, what other financial ties do you have to Jeffrey Epstein?
As I said, I'm going to answer all these
Beyond ADFIN, what other financial ties? You're the Commerce Secretary. We have a right to ask this question and get it answered.
Again, I'm not going to spend the budget day discussing something I've set aside time to spend on this topic.
I'm going to
with your
switch
House
topics.
colleagues.
My name's Josephine Gilbo. I'm a former intelligence officer. I spent 17 years in the U.S. Army. I've held assignments as an intelligence officer at the DIA, the ODNI, NSA, and DHS. And of course, as an intelligence officer in the Army. I've held a top secret clearance with a polygraph, just to give you an idea of my access and experience when it comes to these assignments. One of my many duties along the way has been counterterrorism. I was a counterterrorism officer in the U.S. Army. And I want to give you the definition of terrorism as we use it here in the United States. Terrorism is the premeditated use of violence or threat of violence against civilians or property to induce fear, coercion, or intimidation aimed at government or societies to achieve political, religious, or ideological objectives. Given this information, we're going to focus back now to the bombing of Manab. 165 little girls were killed by United States Tomahawks from a United States vessel in the area of operation. A modern Tomahawk missile is equipped with onboard cameras, real-time targeting imagery. Satellite imagery is constantly collected by several intelligence agencies, several countries, in real time. Let's talk about what that satellite imagery would show of the Manab little girls' school. Murals. The entire school was surrounded by colorful children painting, flower, bright color murals surrounded this school. And it was, without a doubt, a school if you looked at it through satellite imagery. It was, without a doubt, a school when you looked at it through the onboard camera of the Tomahawk missile. It was clear. Now let's talk about when the attack started on Iran. 10 a.m. At 10 a.m., Israel, along with the United States, began attacking Iran. By 10:20, the staff at Manab School began evacuating the children. Strike one. Hit the school. The kids moved to the prayer room. Strike two. Hit the prayer room. 163 kids dead. Strike three. Hit nearby. Multiple sources, including intelligence reports, regional sources, and U.S. officials are required to confirm a target for the U.S. Navy and military operations to ensure accuracy and reduce errors. This is how it works. This is how it worked that day. NBC News reports USS Sprunitz, a guided missile destroyer, shot the Tomahawk. Commander Leigh R. Tate, Executive Officer Jeffrey E. York, commanded USS Sprunitz, who shot a Tomahawk and killed 165 little girls. After this was done, the same destroyer conducted a replenishment at sea with USNS Henry Kaiser back ready to fire. March 4th, March 10th, and March 18th, they replenished their firearms. They replenished their weapons. No pause for review, No pause for investigation. No calls for this command to appear in front of Congress and report to the American people why we just bombed a school knowing it was a school. Nothing. Silence. Lies. Excuses. Who are the terrorists? Who are the bad guys in this story? This is the story of our timeline. By our own definition of terrorism, and I can say this as a former counter-terrorist officer, we are the terrorists. We are the bad guys. Now, what's going to happen next? Our U.S. military is about to die. A bloodbath. They are at the bottom of the totem pole. That's the reality of it. In this whole scheme, they're the pawn. Slaves to the elite, the Epstein class. And the hardest thing about everything I'm saying right now is none of us up here can save them. No matter what we say today, no matter if we cry, no matter if we yell, we will not save them. But I'm going to try. I call on USS Tripoli Commander Captain Patrick J. Sullivan. Stop the ship now. Turn the ship around now. You are going to be complicit in war crimes and the death of our brothers and sisters, of Marines, of your Marines. Their blood and death will be on your hands. Captain Patrick J. Sullivan, stop the ship now. Turn it around. Turn the USS Tripoli around now.